1983, Connolly Garden apartment complex in North London. The pipe is blocked, due to which water is entering in their house, and they are not able to even flush the toilet. So they complain the landlord, but the landlord's excuse was that it is an old building, so the wastewater slowly drains out. We can't do much. Now, due to the increasing number of complaints, the landlord finally had to call a plumbing company. On February 8, 1983, at around 6 p.m., the plumbing company sent an experienced plumber named Mike to that location. Then, Mike immediately reached the side in his car, seeing which the people there came running to him. After listening to the complaints of people, he opens the lid of sewage behind the building to stop the blockage. Now, as soon as Mike shines a flashlight into that sewage hole, he finds a lot of hair, napkins and pieces of paper, which were kind of mashed up, and the pipe is completely blocked. As soon as he found out the reason for blockage, Mike quickly wore gloves and started taking out the dirt. He had also brought a small bucket with him, inside which he started pouring all the dirt. After cleaning the main dirt lying in front, he took it out. After taking it out, he starts putting his hand inside the pipe slowly. He let his whole arm go inside the pipe. Till now, everything was going well. Then suddenly his hand collided with something strange. He moved his fingers here and there, tried to move it to feel what was there, but surely could not find out what that thing was, which just a second ago had hit her hand. Touching that thing felt soft, and he was also feeling some kind of hard material inside the soft thing. He also tried to pull that thing, but he did not get much, but whatever he got was something strange when Mike looked at that thing carefully. When he thought that it might be pieces of some kind of meat, and the hard material he was feeling were the pieces of small bones present in that meat. Till now, everything was fine, but Mike was surprised. He said that he had never seen such a strange meat before in his entire life. Mike had cleaned hundreds of sewage pipes, but it had never happened that a meat was the cause of blockage in pipe, and that too in such a large quantity, which he had never seen before. So let's learn more about today's case, which revolves around
Andrew Nilsen.
Mike had cleaned hundreds of sewage pipes, but it never happened that the cause of blockage, any pipe, was some kind of meat that he had never seen before in his life. Now, after seeing all this, Mike was not feeling anything right. And on top of that, it was already late in the night. He not able to understand how to clean it. So he thought he would bring his supervisor with him tomorrow morning so he could show him and how to clean it. Mike stopped his work there and started walking towards his truck. Seeing him going back, two people who lived there came running up to him. They said, "Brother, where are you going? Have you cleared the blockage?" Then Mike replied, "No, there is a lot of dirt stuck in it, and some pieces of meat are also stuck there. And on top of that, it is already late in the night, so I can't explain it." Those two residents who came running to Mike, one of them jokingly tells Mike that it seems people are eating less and shedding more of their KFC chicken. Responding to this, Mike further said, "Look, I have been doing this work for many years, but I am seeing something like this for the first time in my life." Then he sat in his truck and went back. Next morning, Mike brings his supervisor along and gives him all the information about blockage, and both of them lift the lid of that sewage pipe. Mike checks that blockage in front of his boss, but as soon Mike puts his hand inside that pipe, he looks at his boss with surprised eyes. He was constantly looking towards him. So Mike's boss asked him, "What happened?" Mike was still confused because the blockage he had found inside the pipe yesterday suddenly disappeared somewhere. That is, someone had... Earlier, that pipe had been cleaned deliberately. Now Mike and his supervisor were looking at each other. Then Mike said that it is not possible. How can someone clean this drain? But now both of them were not able to understand that. Why would anyone do such a thing? After all, who would have done such a difficult job? If they had to do it themselves, then why did call us? Well, Mike and his supervisor thought that they did not care about finishing the job. After which, they started checking the pipes of every house. This was done so that if there is any blockage behind, it can be removed. Now listen carefully. When they were checking the pipes of every house, they found that all the pipes were completely clean except the pipe of one house, apartment number 23. Mike and his supervisor had no idea that the apartment whose pipes they were checking was going to be published on the pages of history in a few days. Apartment number 23 was the same apartment from where a dangerous material was being supplied in the sewage pipes of that area. That is, the same meaty substance in the pipes of apartment number 23, which Mike had found the night before. See, now Mike and his supervisor were already feeling bad about the place because strange incidents were happening there, like blockage of pipes. At night, some unknown person cleans it, and no one even hears about it, and then pieces of the same meat pieces are found again in the pipe in someone's apartment. After seeing all this, Mike and his supervisor gave up. Mike called the landlord there and said, "Look, we're not going to touch this pipe. If you want, call someone else. We will leave from here." And when the landlord came to know that bones and mass had accumulated in the pipe of apartment number 23, he immediately called the police. When the police reached the spot, they collected the sample of that meat and sent it to the lab for testing. The next day, when the report reached the police, everyone was shocked. It was revealed from the report that meat was sent for testing was not just any ordinary meat or pieces of bones, but it was the meat of the human body. In the report, it was said that it also found out of that piece of meat that was sent to a piece of human's neck. As soon as this was found out, the police quickly reached apartment number 23 of Canley Garden. They knocked on the door, and as soon the door opened, they saw a very fast, rotten smell coming out of that apartment. The smell was so terrible that even the policemen retreated for once. 2 officers standing there even vomited. The one who opened the door was a 35 to 40-year-old man. He told his name was Andrew Nilsen. The police asked him if we can check your apartment for 2 minutes. But Dennis further replied, "Why, and what will you find here?" Then the police tell Dennis that human pieces have been found in your drainage pipe. Here's this thing. He was scared for the once, and then he started talking to the policeman. He said that this cannot be possible. "Perhaps you have entered the wrong house. It might be someone else's pipe." But the policeman said, "Stop talking nonsense and quietly tell us where the body was hidden." After hearing this, Dennis, without any expression, he turned back and pointed his finger towards the bedroom and said that the body is inside my cupboard with 2 plastic bags. Before the police goes into her bedroom and searches, they asks Dennis one more time, "Dennis, are there any other bodies in your apartment that you want to tell about and we should know?" Then Dennis starts looking continuously towards the ceiling. The police, standing at the door, asked what is above. Then Dennis replied from the front and said that there is a cemetery above. Do not go there. When the police entered inside the house and looked above, they were shocked. The entire roof was red with blood. Drops of fresh blood were still dripping from the roof. Then suddenly Dennis, I don't know why, he starts laughing and says, "There might be 10 to 15 dead bodies above." On hearing this, the ground slipped beneath their feet. Then the police asked, "What are you doing this, and who are you?" Then Dennis said softly, "This is a long story, and do you have the courage to listen?" Police said, "Keep talking." But Dennis said, "Not here. I will go to the police station and tell everything there." After which, Dennis was handcuffed. When he was being brought to the police station, while going towards the station, he said, "Take me quickly to the police station. You are driving the car very slowly. I want to lighten my heart by telling story." Now, as soon the car stops at the door of the police station, Dennis gets out of the car and starts laughing loudly. Then some police officers take him to the interrogation room. Dennis is made to sit on a chair and asked, "Now tell me what you wanted to tell," after which he starts spewing out soon. Now he says something like this, "No one sitting there was ready to listen. What was going on?" Dennis gave everyone goosebumps one by one. When he was narrating his story, that terrifying laugh of his in between was enough to scare policemen, as if he himself, the devil, is sitting on the chair in front of them. Year 1978. This was the year from which this tragic story begins. At that time, Dennis was about 33 years old when he went to a club one night. He was sitting comfortably drinking alcohol when suddenly the front door opens and a teenager walks into the bar and comes inside the bar. He had come to buy wine, but the bar people refused to give him anything because the boy is just 18 years old. When Dennis was watching all this happening, he called out to the boy from behind, on hearing which the boy came towards him. Then Dennis takes the boy aside and asks, "Do you want a drink?" The boy says yes. Then Dennis further says that if you want, can go to my house. There we both can have a drink. The 14-year-old boy, Stephen Home, quickly agrees, and both of them start walking towards Dennis's house. When they reached home, they drank a lot and both enjoyed a lot. And then after getting tired, both of them slept on the same bed. The next morning, when Dennis opened his eyes, he saw his friend Stephen was still sleeping on the bed, but he didn't know why. From the deep inside, he was being tormented by the fear that as soon as Stephen woke up, he would leave him and would never be able to be his friend forever. He did not like the idea of being away from Stephen at all because he wanted to keep Stephen with him always. Then suddenly his eyes fell on the tie which was lying on the ground. He makes a noose of his tie and strangles him. Dennis told the police that as soon as when he started pulling the tie hard, Stephen woke up. At that time, Stephen could not understand what was happening to him. He even tried to take the tie out of his neck, even kicked him, but it did not work. Because he was just a 14-year-old child, what else could do? Eventually, his arms and legs also stopped moving. There was no movement in him anymore. Dennis told that he took out the noose. Stephen, at that time, he looked completely relaxed. But as soon Dennis released him, he realized that Stephen was not dead yet. He had just become unconscious. After which he filled a bucket of water and put Stephen's head in that water. He was holding Stephen's head so tightly that the child could not free himself, and within a few minutes after bubbles stopped coming out from water, Stephen was killed by that devil. But Dennis was still not satisfied. He took Stephen and sit on the chair lying in front. Then Dennis goes to the kitchen and he comfortably makes a cup of coffee for himself. While drinking the coffee, he was looking into Stephen's eyes. He still did not know how to handle it. So the first thing, he took Stephen's body to the bathroom, bathed him thoroughly, and dressed him in good clothes. After which Dennis laid Stephen's body on the bed and he himself lay down with him. Dennis said that in that moment he suddenly felt so much happiness, which he was not able to express in his words because Stephen was never going to leave him. He could keep Stephen with him as long he wanted. After lying on the bed with Stephen, he feels that now he will have to hide Stephen's body somewhere else. Otherwise he will be caught. After which he brings a cutter machine from the shop. But after coming home, as soon he starts cutting Stephen's body into small pieces, he suddenly starts feeling sleepy. He thinks of leaving everything and taking a short nap and sleeps comfortably on the bed as if nothing has happened. After waking up, he makes Stephen sit on the sofa and starts doing household work, prepares dinner. And he also finishes his dinner while watching TV with the dead Stephen. Then, suddenly, he focuses on Stephen's body and starts thinking of hiding it. He suddenly remembers that a wooden floor tile in his apartment is loose. When he looks down, he realizes that there is a lot of space here, and he picks up Stephen's body and starts putting it inside. But by now, Stephen's body was completely stiff. His hands were raised upwards. Dennis stood. Their hands were frozen, pulling Stephen's hands hard and giving jerks until Stephen's hands were pressed against his sides. As soon as Stephen's body got stuck inside the pit, Dennis pulled those tiles, put it back in its place, and then he started doing his daily routine. He roamed around the house as if nothing had happened. But then, a few weeks passed, and Dennis started remembering Stephen again and wanted to see him once. So he again uprooted those tiles and took Stephen out, bathed him, and then started bathing himself in the same water in which he had bathed Stephen. After bathing, he looked at Stephen comfortably and talked to him. After that, he again hid Stephen's body in the same place. Now 7 months had passed, and Stephen's body was still buried under the ground. And on the other hand, when Dennis comes home one night, he finally thinks that let's hide Stephen's body now. Dennis took out Stephen's decomposed body, talked to him for a few hours, and then took it to the back of the apartment and burned it. When the body was completely burnt, Dennis took it to his house. He could not believe what he had done. He was thinking that had easily escaped by committing a murder, due to which his courage became even more high, after which he committed another murder in the same way, and then the third, fourth. And while doing this, he converted his house into a graveyard. But this psycho killer used to do a very strange thing with those dead bodies. He tells the story of his first murder to the second dead body, and to the third one, that of the second murder. That is, he tells the story of every murder. He used to tell stories of his new dead body. And one important thing is here. After killing people, he had sex with some dead body. He committed around 16 murders, and he committed all the murders in the same way by strangulation and immersing the head in water. After killing them, he hid those bodies in his own house for months. He kept some in the closet, some in the cabinet, some on the roof, some under the bed, his own bed where he used to sleep. He did not leave any corner of the house where he did not hide the dead body. He informed the police. He said that as long as the dead bodies were in his house, he would occasionally take them out, spend time with them, talk to them, and then hide them back. He also said that he found the dead bodies very beautiful and they used to fascinate him. They attracted him, so he always kept them with him. But by 1983, there were so many dead bodies in his house that he started feeling that should get rid of them quickly. Otherwise, he would be caught, because they would decompose. The bodies and their smell started going out of his apartment. So, now to get rid of those dead bodies, he starts cutting those bodies into small pieces and then starts pushing those small pieces through his drain pipe. He flushed the pieces down to his toilet. But by doing this continuously, the vent got blocked, and finally, when a plumber named Mike was called, when he put his hand and checked the sewage, he found those small pieces of human flesh. And the next day, when Mike came back with his supervisor, he did not find anything. That was because Dennis had already heard Mike's sound. So after Mike left that night, Dennis had cleaned that pipe. Let me tell you a surprising thing. This Dennis was the same person who had said this to Mike while leaving. It seems that people eat less of their KFC chicken and shed more. This line was said by Dennis to Mike. Later, he cleaned the sewage pipe, but he had no idea that there were pieces of human flesh stuck in his own pipe. And because of this one mistake, he was caught. After all this, when Dennis was taken to the court, the judge sitting there also got scared for once. Dennis was sentenced to life imprisonment, but he had no remorse for his actions. He even said that, yes, he would have to stay in jail for murder. After spending 34 years in jail, Dennis dies inside the jail at the age of 72. If you liked the video, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below.